Welcome to C-Suite Recruiter and our series on Management Recruiter and the genius of Alan Schonberg. I went to work for MRI at 23 as a recruiter at a management recruiter's office in Cleveland, Ohio. I never met Alan until many years later, after Christian Timbers was already a global search firm and doing about 50 or 60 million in revenue. He was Carol and his wife were friends of ours. Carol was a patient of my wife's. She was a chiropractor. So we got together. But I found in looking back that so many of the innovations in executive search, so the innovations that Christian Timbers brought into search and others did, came from management recruiters. In working today at C-Suite Recruiter as an advisor building search firms, I have met so many companies and worked with 30 or 40 companies of people that started at MRI that, like myself, didn't own a franchise. But they learned something from those early days and were able to take it into their own business and then grow a retained search firm. I decided to stick a stake in the ground, create a brand, Christian and Timbers. I had to take Dick Timbers' name because I needed two names like Heidrick and Struggles and Russ Reynolds and Spencer Stewart, and I only had my first name and last. I wanted two last names. Dick had owned that franchise that I worked for, and he let me borrow his name. And we started Christian and Timbers. Much of what we do in our rapid revenue system are the innovations that I learned that were Alan Schonberg's. His focus on information and data and his focus on repetition of actions that led to certain outcomes. Today in our rapid revenue system, we reverse engineer the rapid revenue process and the rapid revenue what creates rapid revenue events. Meaning I go backwards from the event, a large CEO search or a large strategic partnership where we're doing all the search work for a venture firm or private equity firm or corporation or most of it or part of it, multiple assignments. And then I go back to something we call first contact, not knowing anyone in that firm. And what are the events? What are the client touch points that need to be optimized? And that's how we built the rapid revenue system. But it comes from the things that I learned about Alan's focus on information and research, because we always had to know everything about the source environment at Management Recruiters, at least at our office. And I know that came from Alan. Later on, in talking with Alan, he told me you have to take the time to truly understand your clients and then deliver it. I think Alan was a marketing guy. I kind of think of myself that way. I'm kind of a marketing and branding guy stuck in a recruiter's body. But Alan told me that in order to deliver something different to the client, you have to know exactly what they want. And you have to ask them what they want and what they're not getting. What I learned early on is they weren't getting an understanding of what happened from the time a search started until completion. And then there was a comfort in making it transparent. So he gave them that. He said you have to know the importance of research, knowing where you're going before you get there. We call that today, that is in something called the 3 throttles of rapid revenue acceleration, that we call the who, living in Whoville, that's research. The how, that's what we measure. And Alan was measuring all kinds of things. We were measured in many, many different ways. We would always get these monthly reports of where everybody was. We carried that into Christian and Timbers. By reverse engineering the revenue event, we identified all the things, not just phone calls, not just proposals, not just invoices, but the actions that led to proposals. And we shared that information just like the early reporting at MRI, that everybody could see everybody's performance. So someone that was not performing, you could see why they weren't performing. You could see why the revenue wasn't there, because the actions weren't there. That's what we call the how. And then there's the what. What do you say? Your techniques. We called that our black book. Our book of language, our book of revenue accelerators, relationship builders, dialogue accelerators, things that we knew that worked in language in optimizing a new client relationship. All things that came from Alan. I remember, that he was telling me about the early days of MRI and working with entrepreneurs and helping motivate them to do what they needed to do. He also was a talent hound. He might have thought of the fact that he was a great, great franchise salesman. Many people might have thought of that. But he really wasn't. He was a genius. I mean, he was a great salesman, but he was a genius at giving entrepreneurs a kit, a model, a process, a set of models and processes. Much of that's been lost in the many purchases of MRI. Clearly, the genius is gone. We were able to take it and build a $100 million search firm, the fastest growing in the world, just with a little bit of his genius. Just think if he was alive today and what we might be able to learn from him. And I would challenge everyone who's at MRI today or has been at MRI to come up with your own innovations by doing what Alan suggested I do. Ask the client what they want and then give it to them. Find out what they're not getting today from everybody else. Be brave enough to ask how you're doing and what you could be doing different, and then give it to them. And then we can all take a piece of that innovation with us and build something extraordinary. Everyone has that opportunity. I thank you for listening to me today.